everybody, it is Romania Black, and we're starting a brand new series today. Okay, now first and foremost, I want to say two things. One, I am going into this series 1000% blind. I know nothing about it. And I know some people have maybe been questioning because they were like, March Comes Like a Lion, is that a sports anime? And I was like, I don't want to know. All I know is that it was recommended as a sports anime. It involves a sport of some kind, but I don't know what it is. And I've never really gone into a series with this little knowledge. But that's what we're doing. So I had a poll back a few weeks ago to see what series would be replacing the former series on the Sports Anime Thursdays. And as you can see, I mean, it was really close between the second, third, fourth, fifth place. All the ones that were kind of like vying for those other spots other than number one were all pretty close. But yeah, this by and large won by a huge margin. And I think half of it was people were wanting to watch this in March. And that seemed to be fair, but yeah, I don't know anything about this other than it has a sport. I don't even know what sport it is. I have no clue what I'm stepping into. So please, if you're new to the channel, no spoilers, please. I will have a moderator check. I will not read comments that have spoilers in it that the mods have determined are spoilery, so please don't do that if you want me to read your comment. And I'll just heart it and move on if it's spoilery and I won't reply to it. So, but yeah, I'm super excited. I have no clue what to expect, except that there are 44 episodes, and that's all I know. I am watching the subtitled, of course, because I'm a big sub person, unless it's heavily recommended that there are dubs. But usually Patreon will speak up if that is the case. For this series, they didn't speak up, so I'm assuming the sub is the way to go. But yeah, I've actually had March Comes Like a Lion or 3 Gatsu, however you want to say that. I've actually had it on the polls since 2001, like the last several years. When I first started watching sports anime, it was on the poll. It has been basically the bridesmaid for years. It's gotten second place over and over and over again. And so I'm actually really happy that it's finally winning and I can finally watch it, because it kept getting second place and I was like, well, it has to be good because it's almost winning every time. And now it finally has won. So, haha. But yeah, if you are curious, there will be a link down below to the reaction, and then we'll come back and do the discussion. But I'm super excited to see this show, to talk about it with y'all, and see what in the world I am in for. It's the first episode, so I mean, it'll probably set up the characters and stuff and the tone and everything, but I'm not joking when I say I know nothing about this. I've kept it on the poll for years, hoping that it would win and be like, well, we'll see then. So now's the time. But in any case, I hope you all enjoy. But we're going to start this first episode of March Comes In Like a Lion. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1. And let's go. Oh my gosh. Like I said in the reaction, I feel like I learned so much and nothing at all. I want to, this is Whiteboard Coon. If you're unfamiliar with the channel, this is Whiteboard Coon, the explainer of all things. And Whiteboard Coon usually comes out if there is stuff for me to write down and keep track of. And this episode, if it has taught us anything, it's like there's a lot to keep track of. So it's about shogi. All right. I know nothing about shogi, so it'll be exciting. Be exciting to see it all go down. But this series is way more production oriented than I was expecting. It is way more artistic. It is way deeper and darker than I intended. And there's this tonal whiplash that happens between Rei's inner thoughts and then when he interacts with the family, and it's a totally different environment and almost becomes an entirely different show. That's so fascinating to me because there's like this complete separation of him in the shogi world and his thoughts there when he's by himself. And then when he's with this family, his role changes and his entire outlook changes, and it's kind of insane. So Whiteboard Kun is going to help us break down some of these characters, break down some of the thoughts here. There is a lot of mystery with this show, and I really like that. I love a good mystery. So I am all elated and excited to be diving into the mystery of this show because it seems like it's going to be a good time. Seems like it's going to be fun. So first and foremost, before we dive in, I'm going to take a sip of coffee and explain real quick if you are unfamiliar with the channel. I like mysteries. I like theorizing. I like throwing kooky theories out there that might be true, might not be true, but here's my thing. I am all about comments and talking about the episode. We can talk about the atmosphere, about what it references, about what it reminds us of. The one thing I don't want to know, though, is if I posit a theory and it is correct or incorrect, I don't want to know. I want the show to tell me and for me to find out, because that's half the fun. That's the surprise. When you watch a show for the first time, you want to be surprised as you go. And as a reactor, I want to give you guys a good experience too. So please do not confirm or deconfirm my theories. You can explain stuff that is happening with Shogi in the episode, and if there's any like production references, stuff like that. But I don't want any spoilers as to stuff that's going to happen to the characters. I don't want to know, filling in the gaps information yet. I want to find that out as I go. So don't tell me, be like, well, here's the information about the mom and dad and all this. I don't want to know that yet. We're going to find that out. Be patient with me. And I'm going to ask the mods to be very diligent to not let me read comments that give away information that I'm going to find out later. When we find out later about it, then we can talk about it. But for now, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot in this show because Rei doesn't seem like a character who's very open with his emotions. So we're going to have to find a lot out as we go. But this opening, the turbulent waters, the ripple effect, the idea of the eyes of the storm. And if you look, like, the eyes of the storm almost seem like the eyes of Rei himself, like he is the eye of the storm. And he has all of this inner, I don't know if it's rage, I don't know if it's frustration, but there's this turmoil within him that is like a sea, and it's just like this nebula. And we don't exactly know what the cause of it is or the root of it. We kind of get an idea, but there's this storm, and March comes in like a lion. It's like a wild storm bringing in the beginning of the month, right? But the thing about March comes in like a lion is that the phrase goes, it comes in like a lion, strong and wild, but then it leaves like a lamb. So it leaves calm down and more tranquil. So we'll see if Rei gets more tranquil as the series goes on, right? But yeah, there's all this like riptide and current. There's a big connection with Rei and the sea. So I don't know if he's lost a loved one at sea or what's to do with that. But this like wind blowing and this storm brewing around him, it's so artistic. And it's very like it's very atmospheric, and there's an ambiance to it it simultaneously reminds me of like Grave of the Fireflies in a way, but then not. And it reminds me a little bit about The Thief and the Cobbler a little bit. And I haven't watched this movie yet. It's on my list of movies to watch, but I've seen like little bits and pieces of like Angel's Egg or something like that. The style of it is cinematic, definitely. It has a cinematic quality to it. But the animation style also for Janyu Yaoi on my channel, which is where I review different like BL Yaoi series for the month of January. There was a series called The Boy That Caught a Merman, and it actually ended up being this really artistic kind of little romance OVA. But the art style of it was very stylized, very distinct, and this kind of reminds me of it. The way that they frown, the way the characters frown, and just Rei looks sad all the time, and it's kind of terrifying. It's like, at first I was thinking in my head of like Light Yagami in Death Note when he's battling the guy at Shogi, but what it really reminds me of is like if Mob from Mob Psycho, if Mob just decided to become a professional shogi player. That's kind of what it reminds me of, right? We're going to skip this intro now. I like that the intro has nothing to do with shogi at all. It just is kind of like portraying Rei as this like drowned person. So this episode has 2 chapters. I'm assuming it's based off a manga. Each episode is 2 chapters that are adapted, right? And chapter 1 is Rei Kiriyama. Chapter 2 is the town along the river. It definitely feels like this little rural town. Like, I'm from the rural Midwest in America, so I can relate to kind of like the humdrum town life, and everything is kind of like very sparse, and it feels lived in. It feels kind of grungy. Like, I get that. So we're going to put Rei up here. We have Rei Uh, Kiriyama. We do know from him that he is 17 years old and he is a pro shogi player. Okay. Which does beg some questions when we get to it. We'll talk about the pro shogi player when we get to it. But he started, he was like and we also established, you might as well put that up here, that he is a prodigy and started going pro in middle school, which is insane. But here in the US, there are lots of athletics and sports that sign people on while they're very young. I think the one that comes to mind for me, especially in the rural Midwest, is archery, which seems like such a weird thing. You're like, archery. And I'm like, yeah, no, there are professional archers. There are some that have their own hunting shows. There are some that just do professional meets, but they get sponsors and they can be sponsored as early as high school and they go around and make money. I mean, is it enough to live off of? That is the question. But I'm wondering if anybody sponsors him, or in Japan if they do sponsorship like that, or if it's just based on the matches and things like that with their monthly income. I don't know exactly. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, REI Kiriyama. So yeah, okay. So we start with like the water going down the drain. Like something is going down the drain. Like there's either a relationship. This part is it feels symbolic. So if we're breaking this down, we have the idea of the water going down the drain. Like there's a relationship going down the drain. Something isn't working out. And they say Zero. What a weird name. So we have this concept of Zero. I'm like, is Zero, was that a nickname that REI had? I don't know. What a weird name. And so we see this woman. She has like a cross necklace. She has a ring. I don't know who she is. It's so weird. And then it says, but it suits you. And then she says, isn't that right? And it says, you don't have a home and you don't have a family. And we see this like just this outline of him just shaded in the black and the darkness, like making REI look absolutely terrifying. So there's this idea of no home, no family. Interesting. And then what else does she say in this opening? You don't go to school. You don't have any friends. And the way she just looks at him. And then there's, this eye of the storm. So she's almost like the monster in the storm. So it's like no family, no friends, no school. And she says there's no place in this world. Okay. Which we're going to talk about that here in a second. But she says, see, there's no place for you in this world. And I like that she kind of becomes the ripples. And it's like under an overpass, under a bridge. And then there's all this water, like he's drowning. And then he opens his eyes. I love his color scheme. I love the black hair with the green eyes. He's very, very, he has a very pretty face if he, if you'd smile more. But the thing about it is, that's so interesting to me because it shows him with like the view in front of the river. Like he has a riverside apartment. I'm assuming that's not cheap, right? That wouldn't be cheap here in the US, but I don't know what, like where he's at, where he's located, all that. But it's like he has a home technically. I mean, he has a residence. Now, you could have the argument of, is it a house or is it a home? Maybe that's the case. And then as far as no family goes, well, if he's not related to those people that own the pastry shop that he helps, if he's not related to them, then maybe he doesn't have a family. But then they're like, you have no friends. I'm like, well, are the people that are at the shop that he's helping, are they not his friends? And they say that there's no school, but we see him going to school, so there's no place for him to belong. Someone has told him all these things, but it's interesting that what we see in this episode kind of contradicts what she says, but maybe it's all just an appearance. I'm very fascinated because it looks like he just moved there. There's a lot of boxes. They're not unpacked. This looks like a new apartment, and he's got the shogi board and everything, and he's just got like the ramen things and the water, and he's got like one shirt, 2 pair of pants. He's not unboxed. So it feels like he just moved here. So maybe he did just, I feel like whoever she is saying, she's calling him zero, like he's a loser. And maybe it's because he decided to play shogi professionally, and she's like, where's the, where's the sustainability in that? And why are you a professional shogi player? I don't know the shogi scene in Japan and how lucrative it is. I know there's like professional poker players in the US that make a living doing that. Now, whether it's sustainable or not, it kind of depends on how serious you are. But some people live that life, and that's what they do. Maybe she was telling him that there's just no sustainability in it and there's no future in it, and he's a loser and a zero for, throwing away, these other opportunities to do that. So I don't know. But it feels like he just moved there and got used to being there. And then, yeah, he goes outside onto the dock there and looks at the... I love that this opening scene, there's no sound. We see his reflection in the glass there of him looking at himself. There's there's not a score. It's just like the sound effects of the city. It's so quiet, but yet you hear like the little tugboats and everything. And then him seeing, okay, we see him looking out at the water and the ripples. He definitely has a connection to water. So I don't know, did he lose a family member? Did they drown? And that's why he keeps going back to the water as motif. Is he depressed? Such a mystery. But yeah. Then we get like little tiny hints. Like we see the calendar. It says 2007. Man, what a time ago, right? 2007, huh? Man, and then we have like all the shogi matches and everything and like the techniques and all that lined out. And he has his briefcase, has his board, has his cup of ramen that he's not eating real healthy. And then he picks the black slacks to wear to go to the match. But everything's done so like methodically and slow, like he's taking his time. But that kind of relates to the mindset of when he gets to the shogi match and it's so quiet. It's talking about having a calm mind. It almost feels like him getting dressed is like game day preparations. Like him doing everything slowly and methodically is like getting him in the mindset of a match. Of this is where my mind needs to be. This is what I need to do. It feels like it's almost like a ritual, right? And then he gets the glasses and puts them on and then goes out the door. It didn't seem like there was a latch on that door, like a lock. So yeah, so we get him walking downtown, just quiet to himself. Again, we have a lot of focus on the boats, the river, everything there. And it's just so like there's just this turbulent storm brewing inside of him. It's like he's ready. It's like he's gearing up to go to the match. That's why it kind of reminded me of Light Yagami a little bit from Death Note. It's just like on the surface he seems this way, but then in his internal monologue is just like all this bombastic. Except Light in Death Note would be like a symphony orchestra playing at full blast. And this is just the most serene, calm, like almost eerie quiet. But yeah, it's so tranquil. And we get that little song at the end. So yeah, he has this ritual where he goes to the train tracks, just gets there. What's interesting is on like all of the banners and everything, there's like his face, which is kind of creepy. And at first I was like, is this taking like a Neon Genesis twist where it's getting really cerebral and like Shinji and all this? But I don't know if that advertisement is like showing him as a shogi player, but it's him underneath the bridge, which is like where he was thinking at the beginning. So I don't know if this shot of him under the bridge where they're taking his picture, I don't know if this is like, if it's actually like an advertisement of him as a shogi player and he's just, everybody's ignoring it, they don't care, or if it's all in his head. I don't know. I feel like we need more context later on as we go. And then he goes and gets off at Sindagaya. All right. And it's all this game day prep. It's the biggest antithesis of like prepping for a match. Like in a sports anime, you're usually like, there's like Rocky music, like dun, 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 like Eye of the Tiger's playing. You're running up and down the stairs. There's like this dun, dun, like a big montage. No. It is the most quiet, in the most intimidating way, somber moment of him going to play shogi. I do love how the shogi building, it looks so grungy and lived in. Love that about it. And then we see him going upstairs with the bottles of water and they all notice him coming. Interesting. And at first I was like, why did they react like that to him? Were they expecting him to show up? Were they surprised? But if he wins a lot of matches, apparently he's a big deal. The one teacher says he follows him online. We'll talk about that later. And then he walks in and nobody's there yet. I guess because he's there early, maybe, that it was kind of like, oh, you're here super early. And it's just like him getting ready for the match. Like getting ready for a battlefield, right? And we see like the bubbles from the drink rising up. There's a constant going back to that bubbles and things like that. And then I'm assuming these people here, there's a table with 2 pillows and the stopwatch and stuff. They're keeping track for the match. And he's like getting prepared to go in there. Yeah, it's just like this calm before the storm. Oh, I love that we're seeing the preparation for the battle, for the match, like from Rei's point of view. And it's just like this inner brewing storm. Like he's so terrifying. It says the calm mind is the way, but I don't know. Rei's mind is not, it seems calm, but I don't know if it is. And then in comes this man. Okay. He's like, all right. But yeah, I wonder if how seeing like the turbulent storm in front of him, if that's how he views Rei too, if it's from his perspective. And he's like, how have you been, Rei? And then like every time it cuts to him, it's just like his hair is flowing in the breeze and he looks like he's been through hell. And he like clenches his fist. And the man's like, okay. Sure is hot, huh? There's such a weird tension between them, and that's why I wanted to bring Whiteboard Queen out to like go over this. So we have JS Children's Shogi Tournament. So we have this man, a girl, a boy, and Rei. And it shows him like at the tournament looking all blushy. He's like, what am I saying? So we see this girl. I wonder if she's the one, the girl, she got a participation certificate, and the one boy got like a little trophy, and then Rei got like the big trophy that won the big prize at the end. The girl that looks pissed off that she just got a participation certificate, I wonder if she's the woman at the beginning that was talking about him being a 0. It's time like this, all we can do is comment on the weather. It's like we have nothing else to say. We have nothing else to comment about other than the weather. But is he, because, okay, if the girl is like his foster sister or adopted sister, and she says you have no family, then she's probably like getting pissed at him and like tells him off, being like, well, you're not our real brother. You know, like one of those moments. So maybe that's it. Maybe this guy's his like foster dad. And he's like, let's begin. Interesting. I like this idea. We're going to go back to it. But he's talking about as he plays this man that's his foster father, seemingly, he's talking about how each move felt like a blow, like he was punching him. And so it's like the way that Rei lets out his aggression and anger at his father is by beating him in shogi. I mean, it's better than bludgeoning him with a hammer like that one guy did that we'll find out later on. And so then, yeah, we have all these matches going on. At the same time, it's so quiet. It's like a chess match. But yeah, they're all going at the same time and being watched. And then they just keep going until the point where he's like, oh, there's nothing else I can do. And then as we go, we get a couple of flashbacks, right? We see a little boy with the ticket. Oh my God, baby Rei looks freaking adorable. So cute. Too cute for words. And then as he's making the move, we see Children's Shogi Tournament and the championship. And he gets so excited. And then I guess Rei was excited, and then the man is trying to comfort his son and daughter who didn't win. And he's like, oh, look, I got a match. And he was left out. Yeah, and it shows him with the trophy, but then the man takes home the son and the daughter. Okay. And yeah, she looks back at him like she's mad. Yeah, okay. Oh, I want to know more about all of this, but we're getting a really good picture of it now. And when he says there's nothing, What he's saying is, I have no moves left. I've lost. But that nothing, it's just like, it speaks more to their relationship than anything. He's like, there's nothing between us. And then he's like, I lost the match. Seeing him so sad. This animation, why is it making Rei look so freaking sad? It's terrifying. I'm so sad about it. No. And then he's like, nothing. I can't do anything. And he's like, you won. Yep. Oh, he's like, you've gotten better. Are you eating? And then he says, are you eating properly? It feels like such a dig. Where he's like, you left so suddenly. And Ayumu and Kyoko are worried about you. So he left. So basically he was with them. I'm assuming that she's the one who said he had no friends, family, or home, and he left after that to go play professionally on his own. So we know that we have the two siblings are Ayumu and Kyoko are the siblings that Rei was living with. Okay. And then he left. And then he gets up, and I like that Rei says, no, you're lying. They aren't missing me. You're just saying that to save face. He's like, yeah, no. Because, yeah, then he leaves, and those guys, like, nod to him. And I'm guessing now, okay, the guys, when Rei showed up, the guys that were just like, oh, they were probably thinking, oh, shit, this kid showed up. Didn't he just leave his dad and, like, go live on his own? That's probably why it was so awkward then. Okay. Okay, because they leave with him. And he says, that's a lie. Oh, man. Oh, his face. Rei. Oh. I feel so bad for Rei. And then he's just on the train just like this. Oh, my God, Rei, my dude. So the question is, how did he get hooked up with Momo and Hina and this? Like, how did he get hooked up with them? Because he's at, like, we see the shot of the town. The town's very lived in. It's very rural. And we see the shot of it. He's just sitting there on the bridge after the match. And that's when his phone rings. And he gets the text message. And who is it from? I want to see what it says. It says, one new message from Hinata Kawamoto. Okay. So we have Hinata Kawamoto. Or I'm guessing she's Hina. Okay. So Kawamoto that's not his last name, so they're not related. And he says, from Hinata to Kiriyama, good work today. We're having curry tonight. Come over. We'll be waiting to see you. So she clearly knows him. They have to be related, I'm sure. And he's just sitting there, on the stereotypical swing set where you make decisions in anime. And he goes, oh, thank you. I'm feeling under the weather. So at first he's not going to go, right? He's not going to go join them for whatever reason. But then she sends a new message, like, before he can say anything. And she's like, oh, no, Rei. Okay, Akari. Akari must be the older sister and or mom. So we have Akari, that is the oldest. Akari Kawamoto is the oldest. And then we know Momo is the youngest. Okay. Now, Akari calls him Rei. Akari says, Rei, we're having curry, but we don't have any pickled vegetables. Can you pick some up along with some eggs? So she kind of is like, we're not letting you say no for an answer. We're going to make you, like, decide to come with us. So, yeah, interesting. So she knows him on a first name basis. And then he's like, well, I can't get out of it. So he shows up and they're like, Rei's here. This household is nothing but chaos. It's like everything around him this whole series was calm, serene, chilling, and eerie, and full of all this tension, and that dissolves the moment he comes to this house. With these crazy cats running around. It's just chaos, but he handles it really well, right? So their mother and grandmother have passed, right? And he's not related to them. So I'm curious, like, how do you get to know them? These cats. It's interesting. And with the grandpa's there and the people helping the bakery, the grandpa is there. I'm like, okay, is Akari they said mom and grandma, so Akari must be the eldest sister. So Momo and Hina must not be her children, but rather her sisters. And the mom has passed and the grandma and all they have is their grandpa and the dad is not in the picture. Okay. I think that part makes sense, right? I just love the movement. I love that Momo's just sitting there like moving around with all the food and everything, acting amuck, causing a scene, and then these cats are like trying to get all the food, like, and it feels almost kind of claustrophobic, but I know like this feels like so familiar, like a kitchen scene where everybody's trying to get stuff ready and get stuff, and they're like, oh, you got the groceries, you got this. Like, it just feels so natural. And I love that he's just kind of like sitting there, like, it makes him kind of come out of his shell. And then they're like, feed me, sis, hurry up and feed me. And then the cats are all getting on everything. It's such a little space. And then, yeah, and then they make the curry to leave as the offering for the mom and grandma. And then, yeah. And then, interestingly enough, they're like, if you finish the whole egg. And then, like, now on to our next story. And so they talk about in Hibiya City, police found the body of Shizuyo Unagawa in his home. And they're like, he was bludgeoned to death by a blunt instrument. But that's not a name that we know, right? And they say, what do they say here? His eldest son, Tadashi, is a second-year university student. Because he has this moment, like, we instantly, like, go into Death Note mode and fade to that away. And he was arrested. Which Tadashi is not any of these, right? So, no. And then we get this like close up. He's like, Tadashi is suspected of murdering his father by beating him with a hammer dozens of times in the head. And they're like, oh, it's unfortunate for Mr. Koda. So Mr. Koda, I'm assuming, is the man that took them in, that took Rei in. Mr. Koda is the man he played shogi with. I am assuming. They're like, it's unfortunate for Mr. Koda. His league entrance after all this time was riding on that. Oh, so his league entrance was riding on that. So he was trying to get into the league for professional shogi players, but he didn't manage to do that, correct? To think his own son would beat him so easily. So basically, Rei prevented that man from getting into the league. Okay. Maybe he was satisfied after all. And then it cuts back to that screen where it says with a hammer dozens of times in the head. That's only if he was his real son. So there's this automatically this sense of Rei feeling inadequate, that his own foster father isn't recognizing him. And there's like this turbulence and the idea of him like taking out his aggression and anger against his foster father instead of like bludgeoning him like this man on the news did. Instead, he plays shogi and beats him that way. Like, oh my God, that's terrifying. What? And then all the tendrils and everything. He's like, every move felt like I was punching with my bare hands. What? It's so vivid. I can still feel the warmth of the skin that I hit. Oh my God. Terrifying. And then he says, Dad. And that's when he like holds the spoon and the girls are like, are you okay? Do you have a cold? Should we go get you things? Are you fine? You're acting kind of weird. It's crazy. So yeah, so he stays there and then the grandpa comes over and he's like, is that boy sleeping already? And the grandpa's like, I don't get why he's here. We don't exactly know why he's here either. We don't know how he came in contact with Akari and her sisters and what's this like. And he only ate a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I can't blame him. I bet he couldn't get his sleep last night either. Huh. So maybe, does this old man know about him leaving home and know about, did he leave home or did he get kicked out? There's so much mystery. There's so much mystery going on. And so, yeah. Meanwhile, Like, they give him the blanket and everything, but then when she takes off the glasses, Hina does, he's, like, been crying. I'm like, this series is going to make me sad, right? This series seems like it's going to be deep, dark, depressing, and sad with, like, occasional whiplashing bursts of cats. Cats and chaos. And he's like, I'm from a small town by a big river, and that's where I'll be living. Rank C1, 5th Dan, 17 years old. Okay, what I'm guessing is that I know from Sarune, Dan means like master. So Dan is like a rank. And C1, I'm assuming like A is the highest, so C is after that, and 5th Dan is like one of the top players. I'm assuming, maybe. I wouldn't mind knowing the shogi like ranking systems or anything, but clearly he's like a prodigy because they establish him as such. So what's interesting is that he debates whether or not to go to school. So I'm guessing, I mean, here's the thing. I was a goody two-shoes in high school. I was like a teacher's pet. I was there like every day unless I was sick. And I was like top of the class, make grades. I was actually 3rd, but we'll go with that. But it was like I was obsessed with being at school and being academic. The concept of just skipping school like never crossed my mind in high school. I was like, who would do that? So, you know, but I'm an exception to the rules. I realize most people are like, people skip quite a bit. So the idea of him just deciding to go to school to me is like, what are you talking about? But if he's already a professional shogi player, he really doesn't have any motivation nor need to apply for universities or apply for like jobs outside of high school. He already has one. He already has a full-time job, it seems. So I could see why he would have no motivation to go to school. He doesn't really need to. He just needs to graduate, but after that, who cares? So interesting. But yeah, I like this cat that looks like an owl. It's funny. And then the one sister is like, I'm going to be late. The natto, I can never get over natto. I always think of banana fish when I see natto and how gross AG thought it was, or how gross Ash thought it was. So, but yeah, they hurry up and eat food. I like that in these little moments with Hina, he seems much more animated and like a kid around these other people his own age, that it's like so much chaos he can't help but get wrapped up in it. And so then, yeah, they leave her and go to school, and she goes to school, and then she leaves him this massive rice ball that is like absolutely ginormous, and this strange sausage, this strange side dish, and he's like, okay. And he takes it with him to school, along with the keys. I love it. It's just like, I like that the humor in this kind of balances out the ennui and despair that is like lingering under the surface of the series. The humor definitely balances out, which I feel is needed. But yeah, so he doesn't, I like that when we get to the classroom, his outline is in stark, like dark black, his character outline. Everyone else's outline is like a muted gray. So it just further emphasizes that he stands out and doesn't fit in with his classmates. Like he doesn't have any friends. They don't seem to notice him. And then he goes and eats by himself on the rooftop. And so we have that juxtaposition of everybody downstairs eating with their classmates. He eats up on the rooftop, and his friend is one of the teachers, which is interesting. But if he's kind of more of an older soul, him being friends with the teachers, I can see that. Although the teacher brings up a really good point. The teacher's like, I'm broke, not making much money, so you get paid monthly for your matches, huh? And he's like, yeah, all the matches I play, I get a deposit. And he's like, I've been following you online, and you got on a winning streak, right? He's like, the Kiryu tournament, the Jewel General tournament, the rookie tournament. And he talks about like 1, 2, 3, 4 tournaments. And then says, I don't want to think about it, but is your monthly income more than mine? And then he just takes a big chomp out of the rice ball. He's like, I'm not eating lunch with you anymore. He's like, go hurry up and go make friends here at the school. So that does beg the question, like, I do want to know, like, is he sponsored by anyone? How does, the shogi matches work? Why do they pay them? Like, what is the benefit of paying a shogi player, right? Because, for archery, when we have people with archery scholarships and archery sponsors, the sponsorship is not only for the company, but it's to sell bows. It's like to sell a certain product, or they'll be like, here's these special gloves you wear while you draw your string. And those gloves are a certain brand, and they'll sponsor you, and that'll get people to buy those kind of gloves. So I'm like, why does professional shogi players exist other than just for entertainment, I guess? But are they filming these matches and people watching them online? Because it didn't look like there was anybody at the match just watching. It just looked like there were matches going on, but nobody was just sitting there participating as a spectator. So I'm curious, like, how the world of shogi works, but I also feel like we're going to find out in this series. So I'm not sure how much I really want to know. But I'm so fascinated. He became a professional during middle school and is considered a genius. He's just a 17-year-old with issues like anybody else. I like the teacher's like, look, even though he's a child prodigy and he's been a professional shogi player since middle school, he's still 17 and has got some problems. And I like that he's looking at the keys Hina gave him, like, someone trusted me getting into their house, their home. He's like, I wonder what he's thinking about. Thinking about a lot of stuff, apparently. And then we go to this bakery where they're helping him get the goods together. I like these two old ladies that are in the back cooking. Like, Grandpa's wife's died a while ago, and these two ladies are, like, ready to pounce. They're back there being like, oh, hey! Hey, what is his name? What's the grandpa's name? What do they say here? They call the grandpa, they're making the thing for the calligraphy. What do they say here? Yeah, Somaji. They're like, oh, Somaji, he's so fortunate to have his grandkids willing to help. I'm like, these ladies are ready to, like, bust a move. They're ready to go. Watch yourself, Somaji. These ladies are going to move in on you. And then I love that he just can't help but get, like, so worked up with his grandkids. Adorable. So, yeah. He's like, take care of everything else. I'm staying for the party. And he's like, I've got to go home tonight. I have another match tomorrow. It's almost like he's like, when he says I have another match, so I need to practice, I'm like, is he gonna murder someone? Like, it's just like, he's like, I have another match that I have to go practice for. And they're like, okay. And they send him along the way. The bridge, it's funny they mentioned Spirited Away, because the little bridge that they cross to get to their house, it looks like the bridge from Spirited Away, which is really funny. And they tell him good luck. So meanwhile, he goes to his deposit box, which his deposit from the matches hasn't come yet. And then this guy shows up because he's like, oh, it still hasn't come yet. And then he's like, I like that when he notices somebody in the shadows, there's like, he's underwater and there's the bubbles. So I'm like, is that him getting into like shogi mode? And then this guy comes out of the shadows and is like, is this what you're looking for? I'm like, what? And it says match notification. Oh, so it's not his money. It's not his money for the match. It's his match. Who he's gonna face. Chubb. What? Crisp, what? And we don't get to know who this is. We just know that he's terrified for some reason. What? I'm so curious. My dogs are like, please play with me. So yeah, I really like this episode. The style of it is gorgeous. And there's so much like mystery surrounding REI, and we're getting little bits and chunks of like his past and his relationship with this foster family maybe, and it makes me want to know more about him. So I'm very curious. So please, no spoilers, hints, or clues. I know we're going to have a lovely long journey with March Comes Like a Lion, but I'm so excited. But in any case, I hope you all enjoyed this reaction discussion. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. But yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 2 of March Comes Like a Lion.